Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We were previously in closed session. We're now back in open public session. So I'd like to welcome everybody here this evening. We'll begin by standing for the pledge of allegiance and we'll remain standing for a moment of silence. True serving here and anything. Right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, which we allow to participate one nation. Thank you. Please be seated. Minor adjustments in the agenda tonight. We will not be swearing in Officer Nicole Berry. She will be sworn in at our next meeting in November. And there's probably one resolution and then higher up on the agenda, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But for the moment, I'd like to begin with the approval of the minutes. So looking for a motion to adopt this following set of minutes as amended, and that's submitted the September 18th meeting minutes and the September 8th closed session meeting minutes. We're gonna have a chance to look at them.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Any comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Administrative reports, everybody look at the administrative reports. I'll just highlight a couple of things. We received a check from Union Chill a couple of days ago for $18,573 for their month of September. Their total monthly sales in September were $937,000 and change. Also note that the Rescue Squad, I see a couple of them here this evening, just sent in their report. September, 46 of their 142 calls were here in Lambertville. We had 13,568 Park Mobile transactions last month. That's a lot of transactions. And that generated about $52,000 in, well, that generated about 40,000. The total, including points, was about 52,641. That was the number we've ever had by more than $5,000. So the last 2 months are record-breaking months in terms of parking revenue. Also, we said goodbye to Jack Angeloni from the police department in September. We wish him well in all of his new adventures. He's a great guy, and I'm sorry that he's not going to be treading the streets of Lambertville every day. And I think that's it for the administrative reports that I did want to highlight. If there aren't any questions or comments, I would ask for a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. We'll begin our first public participation constituent concern session. In this open public comment session, we ask for members of the public unless they have mobility issues, to please step up to the microphone, state their name, their address, and we have 3 minutes of uninterrupted time for comments or questions. Lindsay keeps track of the time and she'll give you a 30-second warning.
Paul Stevens, 3940. Good evening. According to the project timeline on the project webpage, we should be expecting a resolution for a redevelopment agreement and ordinance for a pilot sometime around now, and wanting to not wait until it's put on to us, and knowing that negotiations that must be going on, I wanted to comment on this tonight. I've already shared with you my opposition to a pilot. I'm not going to go into that again right now. Instead, I want to comment on the redevelopment agreement. According to the project website, 2 of the key parts of a redevelopment agreement are project scope and responsibilities. I strongly feel that environmental and traffic studies are important inputs that have to be included in such an agreement. Otherwise, the city nor the developer will not be able to know what will be required to define the project scope and the responsibilities to safely and responsibly allow for a 200-unit development on the Lambertville High School site. I submit that it is absolutely necessary that the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection be allowed to access and perform a full environmental assessment of this area. It would complement the work that NGDEP has performed already on the adjacent sites thus enabling a complete understanding of the environmental risks on the hill so that a redevelopment plan can be made to responsibly address these risks. My understanding is that in the past, the property owner has exercised his legal right to restrict third-party access to the site. However, now that a redevelopment plan has been modified and Cahobian is the designated developer, they should press the owner to allow for such access. Cahobian should also be amenable to performing a traffic study now, otherwise how would they be able to safely plan to get the construction equipment to the site without endangering the safety and the property of the residents of the hill? Similarly, city professionals should be allowed to access the site under this. They have, there have been reports of major activities on the site. It will be important for our professionals to fully understand the present condition of the site prior to submission of future application and allow for them to accurately assess the application and form recommendations for it before it's voted on by the planning board. I know there is more to be included in the redevelopment agreement, but I felt it was important to share my view on these three areas at this time. Finally, I do not know how either side can be discussing a pilot until at a minimum traffic studies and environmental studies are both completed. Thank you.
Thanks. If I may, I'll just take a minute here to say I did note in Lambertville Matters, that.
You're there yet?
Okay, sorry. I did note in, Lambertville Matters that our closed session tonight would be, we would be talking about the redevelopment agreement, so that conversation is well underway. At this point, I'm just gonna say that, we listen to your concerns. I would encourage you to send me that email. We've already incorporated some of the resident suggestions into the redevelopment agreement. I'm not gonna go into particulars, but I want to assure everybody that everything that comes across our desk will be seriously considered for inclusion. And if you have specific questions about the kinds of things that go into redevelopment, I can answer those, or I can get Bill to answer those. So we're very actively engaged in this process at this point. We're not actively engaged in discussing a pilot at this point. The way that we structured this was that we were going to work through the redevelopment agreement first. So that's where we are. I really want to assure you that we're working hard, and that I think that hopefully people will be pleased with the kinds of protections that we're including in that.
I was just at one of the Paul, you brought up a really good point about access as well to the property, and I just want to let you know, we had a meeting with Fair Share, Miller, and representatives of KHOP. That's an issue I brought up, and KHOP represented Judge Miller that they were going to work on that to get access to the property. So we brought up that exact scenario with the judge, so.
Happy to hear that, needless to say.
Good evening. My name is Beth O'Brien. I live at 2 Hancock Street. I see from the agenda that you'll be discussing the redevelopment plan for my neighborhood tonight, and I have a few questions I hope you can address. Have the negotiations with Cahobian officially begun? And if so, how far along are they?
So I'll just answer no. Have not, I mean, we've had a meeting with them recently and had a general conversation, but with respect to the redevelopment plan, no, we are working on the redevelopment plan, which will then get sent to Cahobian. So
That's great. That goes to my next question. Who is on the team representing the city in these negotiations, and what responsibilities do they have?
the city council, well, certainly Council President Lambert and I are handling any in-person meetings with our council, our development attorney, Bill Local, and the city attorney, city planner, and the engineer as needed.
Okay, and I'm assuming the answer to this is yes, but will residents have an opportunity to review and comment on the terms of any proposed agreement before the decisions are finalized?
Yes, we will. Yes, you will.
And is there a firm deadline or timeline for completing these negotiations?
There is not. There's gonna be some backwards and back and forth here, and I don't know what that looks like, but you know, we are going to be as upfront as I can be about this. We're gonna have a closed session meeting on November 6th to continue our work terms of finalizing the city's presentation of a redevelopment agreement to KMA. So at the earliest, I would say, I think it's reasonable to assume that if the council and I are comfortable and satisfied with an agreement at the close of our next meeting, Mr. Opal can kind of work in whatever additional changes and we can get that moving on to that. So I don't want to commit to a specific timeline, of course, but we are going to be talking about it again at our next council meeting.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes.
I just want to say, we really, I think I speak for all of us here, we want to take the proper consideration as we move through this. So rushing to meet a deadline is somewhat artificial. We have to get it done, and we will work on it, in good faith, but we're not intending to push it through to meet a deadline, whether it be, I don't know, like they'll publish something and, maybe that deadline's gonna slip. We've all worked on projects where dates have slipped. But if the developer wants to move at a certain pace, they just need to wait. As long as we're working in good faith, that's a reasonable expectation.
Right, there's no deadline.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for your answers. I'm just going to finish by saying this process will directly affect our neighborhood and the character of Lambertville. The public has a right to transparency every step of the way. Accountability matters here. We need to know who is making the decisions, on what basis, and with what public oversight. Thank you.
I'll just reiterate something I said in the last meeting. All five of us are deeply engaged in this process. Nothing moves forward until everybody is comfortable with the language or that we've been advised that something is not possible or legal, whatever, right? So everybody on the state is deeply involved in the decision-making process.
But I just to clarify why there's a, thought about a deadline is that we did commit to the court to adopt a redevelopment of a plan, which we finished tonight, to be able to work with them in terms of getting back some of our rights in terms of zoning. So that's like the one deadline that is out there, that was out there, but in terms of the agreement, this other stuff and going for the planning board, court has not issued, dates for us.
And I'm confident in our relationship both with the court and at this point with KManian that we will continue to work at a steady pace, at the appropriate pace, until such time as they have the agreement, they send it back to us, and we've been able to present it to the public before it's signed off on.
So you may want to, what Councilwoman Miska said is, we shouldn't confuse what we're doing tonight that we're required to do by the court with an agreement with the redevelopment. It's two different things. So
I get that part.
your first question that the mayor answered is quite correct. The five of us are going to be working on the agreement. That's ongoing. But tonight we have to approve.
One last resolution.
Yeah. Oh, it's two different.
Thank you.
Judy Gleason, 86 North Union Street. So I have, I think, three things. One, I just wanted people to know that if you, depending on what you request under Oprah, this happened to me and I think people need to know this. The city is providing their response through access to the city web something, I can't remember what it's called, but therefore I can't share that with other citizens to say, take a look at this with me so that we can do it. They would have to individually request and individually get a response. I'm not saying that's good or bad, I'm just saying I didn't know they could answer in that way, so I didn't know that I have to go through the things that I have to go through that take more time. So I thought people would want to know that when you request documents, that there are any documents that may be part of the process that you deal with. Second thing, with respect to the agreement, I'm sorry, with respect to the plan, there are elements of the plan that we have seen in the agenda tonight. And I just want to call attention to some of the aspects of the plan that are worthy of focus from y'all. One has to do with, and I mentioned this at a previous meeting, the planning board said you should talk to West Amwell. And at the last meeting where I said, don't welcome their input, go to them. We should let them know. I see in the information in the tonight's agenda, we again are welcoming their input. We're not saying, okay, we heard the planning board. We will actually reach out and communicate with our neighbors about what we're putting up on their property. So I wanted to underscore there are elements in this thing that I think the planning board spent a lot of time on, and they ought to be more than, oh, it looks okay to us, unless there's a lot of dialogue that we hear, because we're not entirely, we meaning many people that I've spoken with and met with in town are concerned about those things. There are also elements of the plan that talk about their responsibility for contamination. And there are terms in there that are general enough that any attorney will tell you, be more specific about what you're talking about when you say they're responsible for contamination. Do you mean contamination as defined under Superfund? Do you mean it as defined under RCRA? Do you mean CERCLA? What are you talking about? So you will think you're okay, and you won't be okay if you have a good lawyer on the other side saying, we didn't agree to that. So what I was going to say about the agreement, which will be short because my time is nearly run, but the agreement itself, which you are talking about among yourselves, I guess, and I think that's great, but I don't think you can ever sit down at a table to negotiate with a plan that you can't change, or it's not good faith. So whatever you all five agree to, it's not what's going to happen. There's give and take. There's stuff that has to be worked out. So I appreciate you're getting together saying, what do you want? I want this. Okay, what if we don't get that? Or what if they, so I've said this before, I'm concerned about the negotiation process. I'm concerned about the pressure that will be brought to bear on, I guess, the mayor and president of council. And I'm just trying to say, we know negotiation is a tough thing, but don't tell us tonight, don't worry, you're all going to agree and it'll be fine, because it's going to be harder. And we are concerned about what we will know, particularly people who live on the Hill. And I'm really urging that this be a little bit more explicit. And if you can't be explicit, tell us exactly why. Because people don't want to not trust y'all, but don't make us be in that provision. Thank you.
Hey, Judy, I've got a question for you about the Oprah. Did you, I think on the Oprah form, I think we can select paper copies, just so you know.
You can.
So the Oprah's a lot. So, but I did not know that. So was it sent to you like in a SharePoint site or something like that?
It was your, what's it called? The drive. It's into the city drive. And I did download, as was suggested to me. I mean, because your staff has been great, but it's still hard for people to read in some cases, even though.
So what I would suggest is open it up and then print as a PDF, then you can send it out as a PDF.
Well,
I will look into that for you too.
I
think that's important to have easy access, because we don't want to have everyone Oprah stuff that
Understood.
waste or use up city resources if one person's already done, so.
right. I understand. Good points, and we're working on it, and I'll get back to you. Thank you.
Sean Ellis, 21 Belvedere. I want to just echo what Paul Stevens said. I think it's really, really important that the DEP gets access to this property. It's unbelievable to me that they haven't been able to get access for 6 months when there's known contamination, and the highest contaminated site is adjacent to their property. And we're working on a development agreement and we don't know anything about this. Unbelievable, really unbelievable. So and that's that's gonna, color the plan or affect the plan, because if it's contaminated groundwater and or soil, no groundwater recharge there. There go the detention basins, right? So we're talking about, like, where's all that water gonna go, right? We were scared about it even with the detention basins, all right? So unbelievable, really. And the second thing I wanted to ask is, did you talk about, is there any mention in the redeveloper agreement of, public water to Connaught Hill?
I believe that's a separate down the road agreement, but.
Okay,
Yeah, Bill answered this.
The redevelopment plan requires that they provide water to the site. There's other discussions that have to take place about that. But under the plan, which is incorporated into the agreement, yes, they have to provide water to that site. There's more discussions that are going on council. But
okay, well, I suggest you have discussions with the people on the hill as well, because our water right now, the people who've been remediated, it's cleaner than the city water. City water has 2 parts per trillion PFAS in it. Our water gets tested every 6 months. I don't know anyone who would pay the money to hook up to public water system when they know their water is cleaner and they get it for free. Okay, so just want to make sure that people, the residents are part of that, any discussion about that. That's all really I have to say.
Yeah, no, we agree, and the one we, want to talk about is being able to have a dialogue during this time when even like getting to construction, to be able to have the regular dialogue meetings to go back and forth, there's a problem here, there's a problem there. But also really, as we talked about, want to do something now, even to go through, what's remaining on the DEP, the COVID issues and the water softening issue, which we are still unpacking with that. We meet with them again on the 29th to go through the need for the filter change, which there's a filter fix right now at one place that we're seeing that Caltrans did to see if that worked. Kind of tracking that, but I know those revisiting the water softener issue is on there. And of course, revisiting fixing Hope. We're gonna get a sketch from one of the contractors as to what he can put there.
Yeah.
And then we'll deal with the funding issues. Okay. And maybe just one last thing, as is West Amwell is, we're pursuing the private well outreach grant. Maybe we should bring in the $6,000 that y'all raised, like last year, that to again be available for testing or issues that come up. So
That's great.
we're
Wonderful.
and working on trying to apply for the, we won't hear until December.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Jeff Tittle, 33 Wilson Street. The irony of tonight is I think we had this meeting a year and a half ago, and many of us got up from the audience to talk when the first plan of the 200 units came out. It was June of last year, that if the plan's not right, then it makes it tougher to do your developers agreement, redevelopment agreement, and then for the planning board. And so here we are with basically sort of the same plan. And so a lot of those questions and problems still remain. The biggest one, is, stormwater, and so they deal with that. But your plan really doesn't have much about it other than it's there and you're gonna try to do something, but how's it gonna get from there to the river and whose homes it's gonna, and things like that. The issue, same thing with sewers. When Lambert Hill was hooked up, they didn't realize that the shock of all that new sewers hitting the trunk line on Main Street, put sewage in like 20 houses, basements. But these things, are still major issues facing us. And the one thing that I want to say after a year and a half, the more things are done in private, the more they're going to be.
that you should be meeting with the people in the community and other affected property owners and people in this development, because this is going to be the biggest disaster to hit this town. And how you mitigate that disaster is really going to be your job. And how open and transparent you're going to be will help deal with the problems. It's going to be very visible. You're gonna have high retaining walls, you're gonna have to flatten the top of a mountain. My biggest issue right now for you guys is the access for those big trucks that are gonna go in and out of those narrow streets with no way to get in and out. Who's gonna make a left turn at the bottom of Grant? I mean, it's, the next important part to me, and the most important part, is the contamination. Not only do you have to get on that property without getting on the property, I'm talking about the town as well as DEP. This should not go forward, because you're going to be doing something that could put people in danger. And Hovnanian has a history, whether it's in Union, at Hickory Manor, or in Jersey City, or Newark, and other places, of actually developing uncontaminated sites without having a cleanup plan. And then coming back later, after they give up the property, the homeowners associations are the ones that are holding the bag, and then the town. So, it's really critical that the town, given the problems with what I call the LSRP program, and it's highlighted with Cavello Park and what happened there, you have to have your own independent LSRP. Because whatever they're gonna find up there, you wanna make sure they're not playing games. Two, when they come up with a cleanup plan, they're not cutting corners or doing things, because under the law, it's the box designing the hen house and saying it's safe, and then, and saying it's safe. So you have to be part of the process. And then the last piece is, there is no reason under God's green earth that they deserve a pilot. They are getting 4 units for every affordable. They're making a lot of money. They're looking for grants and other things to partner with another company, Michaels, to do the affordables. There's no justification. Not only that, they're turning it over after 2 years, unless they change their mind, to a homeowners association. And that means we're just going to be giving people with $1 million townhouses paying half taxes that someone like me, who's retired, is paying on my house that's worth about half of that. And so there's no reason for it. Plus, it's going to take money away from the schools, and that's the critical part. They get a tax break, we get overcrowded schools. And so I don't believe there's any reason for it. And finally, and this is the last part of it, is that when they do off-track improvements, they have a history of agreeing to stuff and then suing later not to do it. So whatever you do, get the money up front if they're going to be doing something, or do it in a way where they're bonding for it, because they have a long history of doing that. And so, you're going to be going off and fighting with some of the biggest sharks in New Jersey when it comes to development and land use. And I don't know if we're prepared, because we weren't prepared for the lawsuit. We lost that, and that's why we're here today.
Dave Bird, 255 Brunswick Avenue. A positive, nice thing to talk about, one of the people here at the front desk. All right, to Karen Kaminsky for an outstanding article that was issued about that the state government needs to be able to get behind this PFAS, in front of the PFAS. All right, and have state programs, all right, that can train and teach and educate and support. Thank you. I thought it was a really good article.
State is that, so we're working on legislation from, Assemblyman Umbrella and Senator Greenstein to, ask the DEP, to do it, to put it in law, to move ahead to do that. And the League of Municipalities is supporting it. And, I redid that article for the League magazine in December. You'll see a story on it. So we're gonna try to keep moving the ball to get some better action.
Keep up the good work. My notes of my speaking from here on in, and it's primarily involving the development agreement. I will provide it to city clerk, mayor, and council, so you can have it and use it as you see appropriate. There may be some repetition, all right, and I apologize for that. Will the, this is a question, all right, will the city be reaching out to impacted neighborhoods, okay, for their input to the agreement that you're working on? Points for inclusion that have been brought out to, by the impacted neighborhoods, in the past is, steps to include to protect the downstream, downhill residents and businesses from flooding. All right, that's something, you know, has not been talked about much, but it's really there as an issue. Traffic and public pedestrian safety, a comprehensive third-party residents, third-party study needs to be completed for our neighbors. The evaluation of infrastructure needs of the neighborhood, all right, because it's going to be, whether they're going to pay for it or the city's going to pay for it, there's going to be needed improvements up there and you need to get it out there. Safe pedestrian walkways, visual signage in the neighborhood, speed limit signs throughout the neighborhood, traffic lights, lights at Route 179. If you come down one direction, what about the other direction? All right, so it's something that needs to be done. We need to have required construction safeguards, right, for the residents and our employees. Limit construction and impact on the residents, all right, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Weekdays, all right, no weekends or holidays. But you know, if they're coming into our neighborhood, that's our rules, and you wouldn't want to live there with 8 hours or 12 hours of construction. Establish and enforce a predetermined construction vehicle route map, all right, to make sure that they have a way, they're not going through every way and across and creating a problem. Engage New Jersey DOT involvement to confirm that our and the state highways can safely manage the weight of the heavy construction equipment on the roads. And who will determine what of the above will be, you know, discussed or included in discussion for the, you know, for the discussions with Hibbing. All right, and last but not least, who will be the final approvers of the document? All right, to go to Hibbing and you know, before it goes out the door.
Thank you. Well, be brief. There's not, I don't think there's a single thing that you mentioned, your remarks that we haven't already talked about and this evening. So we are covering all of these bases. I promise you. I don't use that word very often, but we are covering all of these bases. The only there will be a public hearing before the council, before the final version of the agreement is signed by the council or whoever signed it, possibly me. So there will be public input sought. One thing in particular that I've been talked to the residents about, particularly the neighborhood, this doesn't need to happen tonight, but you know, we were talking about the city ordinances in terms of the daytime construction hours are 7 to 6. And I think the city council has heard already that some residents would rather have them start later. It's fine with us. We're happy to set the hours according to what the bulk of the residents want. My only point in this conversation is that, you know, if you start at clock, you're losing 5 hours every week in total construction time. So that has the potential to expand the total duration. But you know, I think the council, from our conversation on that, we're completely open to, you know, we want to work with residents to minimize impact, all of these things we talked about and we talked about already.
Then make two brief comments.
Sure.
All right, one, I would suggest that, you know, at this piece, all right, for a public meeting for the residents, all right, with you, not at the end of the process, but now early in the process, and let people make sure you got it, all right? And then you have a good thing the 5 of you can respond to or react to and say, and I'll bet you there'll be something that will be brought up that you hadn't thought about that's worthwhile thinking.
Yeah, there already has, and I would encourage everybody to write to us, all 5 of us, Somebody said excellent suggestion that none of us had thought of, and we've incorporated into the draft. So, and maybe 95% of the people here would have thought of, but it was a good idea. So we are willing and we want to consider everything. We have a lot of expertise in our professionals and in the people on the dais, but we also have a lot of expertise in the community. So I acknowledge that. We're completely open to hearing whatever anybody has to say.
Thank you for your comment.
And I would just remind people that you don't even have to send us an email, like you can go to the website, click the button, and it'll automatically email everyone too, so that's very easy to do it.
Hello, John Towns, 14 Hancock, how you doing? Couple of quick things. Number one, Assembly Bill A 5350. Anybody here familiar with that? No, sir. It makes it illegal for companies or municipalities to build low-income housing. Now, this has not passed yet, before you all get excited. But it will make it illegal to build low-income property on polluted property. Now, that's been languishing for the last 2 or 3 years in the State House. But if it does pass, I hope you guys have something else in the works besides the old high school site, which even the EPA at this point is pretty much in agreement that it's polluted. That again, Assembly Bill A 5350. And that was as of late 2025. I noticed you have here on the website here, it talks about an ordinance for tax exemption. And that comes right from your website for KHA. Why? If that's even being considered, you don't have to answer the question. It's more so for everybody else in the room. Why? Why are we going to give them even more than what they're getting already? Again, that's fine. I know there's nothing the city can do, or even the state can do, to get the EPA on those properties. The landowner doesn't wish to do that. I know in the previous remediation of the old tourist site, they were given ability access to go to the high school site, and until it came up clean and additional wells to test for pollution from what was in the ground up there. I don't know if those wells are still accessible to the city or the state. If they are, maybe we want to revisit those tools to see where we are as far as pollution goes. The last thing I also want to point out, I said this last time I was up here, guys, the north end of town flooded, right? Record flood hadn't happened up there, probably not since the flood of 52. Am I right? Yeah. Flooded on the north end of town like it had?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, several times.
My point is that if what happened there, again, I think it had a lot to do with the development up by the rescue squad. We took out a ton of trees, and trees take up a lot of water. Might want to consider something to remediate the excess water running off the hill and not just a retention pond. All right, that's it. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, soon. Well,
All right.
how many people we have?
Oh, no, got it in.
All right.
We got 6.
6. Good hand.
Diane, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Diane, do you want to answer your question?
Yes, can you hear me okay? Sorry,
try
can
again.
you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Diane.
Okay, I apologize. Yeah, because it's, technology. Anyway, just two comments, two different subjects. I don't have enough info on,
Your name and your address, please.
I'm sorry, say that again?
you identify yourself, please, by name and address?
Oh, I apologize. Diane Kushel, 22 Elm Street.
Thank you, Diane. Go
So-
ahead, please.
So two different issues. One, it's the bottom, lower end of the agenda, something about residential development, and there, it alluded to, driveway usage and, Union Chill dispensary parking. I don't know enough about, what you're going to discuss, and I will listen to the meeting later. But, my concerns are parking, the volume of traffic, from what I observe living in town and walking a lot, is Elm Street is the busiest side street now in town. And what you also listed in the agenda was talking about closing off the Elm Street driveway, and having entrance, if I read it correctly, entrance for the dispensary and whatever residential development you're talking about off of, North Union Street. And my thoughts are, I would estimate about 40 to 50% of dispensary customers do not use the back lot and they park on Elm Street. So, I don't know the feasibility and what your plans are, but just as a very, very local resident, that parking is an issue now, and adding any other development to this end of town with the volume of dispensary traffic, I have serious concerns, with that issue. So I will follow up. It looks like the November 20th meeting there'll be more discussion, and I will follow through on that. But I'm very concerned about, anything more happening at this part of town, because it's very, very busy. And the other thing is there's a resolution, excuse me for not knowing the number, about cannabis dispensary rules for Lambertville. And it basically, I witness a lot because of my very, very close location, but it basically said, people should not be lining up to go in the dispensaries. That does happen here sometimes on Sunday mornings. And I don't know how you would enforce that with that kind of regulation. And the other thing is with not allowing people to come out and light up and hang out in parking lots and smoke. Again, that does happen here fairly regularly. And I don't know how you enforce it, because the police are not allowed to, enforce the law of private consumption only, not public. But it's a fairly regular event, as well as, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but I do witness employees of the dispensary smoking in the back lot and on Elm Street and North Union, smoking marijuana. So anyway, those are my concerns, just for whatever your discussion is on these issues. And I thank you for your time. Thanks.
Thank you, Diane.
Thanks.
What's that?
The spoke word, one word,
Okay,
allowing accessory apartments in the C3.
right, so that's the only thing that's changed.
Yes.
Okay.
Bill could probably speak more to that.
The cannabis language there is the same.
Right, so, yeah, sorry, I was a little thrown off here. Diane, there's something, being changed in the ordinance with respect to the cannabis, businesses. The introduction to the ordinance had to do specifically with the potential development of the spokeswork site as a residential, in a residential capacity as part of our fourth round affordable housing plan. So we can talk a little bit more about that when we get to it. But that's doesn't have anything specifically to do with the Union Chill or the cannabis retail operations in the city.
Diane, I would just say, based upon what you're viewing there too, they do have to reapply for, a permit every year. And I believe if there are violations, that's something we can discuss. So, I think you should be reporting those, to the police, and then also to the clerk as well, so we can keep track of that. And certainly, if you see employees out there, that is something that Union Chill has absolute control over. Those are their employees, so that should be something that should be easily remedied But that is a concern, and I have seen that occasionally, I've talked to them about that. And they've told me that they'll send someone out, so that stuff definitely does need to be reported.
Anyone else online? Okay, have a motion to close the public comment period, please.
So moved to.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. We're going to, offer proclamation this evening. And, I'm gonna look for, consideration now, I thank Councilman Kaminsky for her role in gathering the information for the proclamation honoring the Bear Apothecary Shop. The Barnetts will be, honored on November 14th, and the proclamation will be presented to Mr. Barnett. So.
Yeah, now that their apothecary has been sold, there's a new business, and so they'll be doing a ribbon cutting and honoring Morty on November 14th, so, and details for that to come, and so we want to do a proclamation, so, and here it goes. Whereas for over 60 years, Morton Barnett has faithfully served the residents of Lambertville as the owner and operator of the Bear Apothecary Shop located at 9 North Union Street. And whereas Ford's tireless dedication to his profession and to the health and well-being of his fellow residents has made him a trusted voice and an irreplaceable figure in our community. And
Whereas the Bear Apothecary Shop has long stood as a cherished local institution, offering not only expert pharmaceutical services and over-the-counter remedies, but also toiletries, fine perfumes, greeting cards, gifts, vitamins, and essential household goods. And
Whereas Mort's belief in personalized service, his deep knowledge, his attentive ear, and his kind heart transformed the neighborhood pharmacy into a gathering place, a source of comfort and a beacon of trust for generations. And
Whereas through changing times and trends towards large pharmacy chains, Mort remained steadfast in his mission to serve with passion, integrity, and a profound commitment to every customer who came through his door.
Now therefore be it resolved that by the governing body of the city of Lambertville, county of Hunterdon, state of New Jersey, and the residents and friends of Lambertville, we hereby extend our deepest gratitude and admiration to Morton Barnett, and Janet Barnett as well for their many years of exceptional service. And be it further resolved that Friday, November 14th, 2025 is hereby proclaimed Morton Barnett Day for his care, his counsel, his compassion, and for making the Bear Apothecary Shop a place where people felt seen, heard, and helped. No, motion?
so,
I'll second it.
Okay.
All in favor?
hi.
Thank you. So, going to resolutions now, I'm gonna, move one resolution up before the consent agenda. I think we probably have some people here who are interested in it. And we have the city architect here as well, so in the interest of being mindful of their time, I hope you stay for the whole meeting, but, I thought maybe we would move this up the agenda. And what I'm talking about here is, can you find it? This will be resolution number 173-2025. It's a resolution to authorize the removal of trees in the city public parking lot at 14 North Union Street. I'll note right off the bat, I've received a number of emails from members of the public and petitions I have here from members of the public who are opposed to the removal of these trees. I thank you for weighing in on that. Always grateful to have people sharing their views on every matter, and it does matter to us to receive these letters and to understand that people are engaged in kind of local civic and political decisions. That said, I want to just review a few things about this matter. The governing body reviewed 2 proposed plans for improvements in the central business district near the North Union Street parking lot in order to replace the broken brick planters that are there and have been broken for all the years I can remember myself. Back in May of 2025, May 1st, 2025, this work, during the work session with the government body that the matter was discussed. There were two plans that were presented by the city architect for, improvements, to the, in the central business district. The council discussed them and agreed that we should move forward with the second plan, which was then, brought to, the wheels were set in motion. It was reviewed by the DNR Canal Commission, which the planning board recommended that we, present it to the Shade Tree Commission, also the Parks and Rec and the Environmental Commission, for review. We did, send it to the Shade Tree Commission, we did speak to both the chair people of, the Environmental Commission and the Parks and Rec. We got their kind of informal input on that. And we did not present formal applications to those two commissions, largely because, for every time, the city architect comes to one of these meetings, we pay it. So, I thought that it was sufficient to have conversations with those two chair people. So it was brought to the Shade Tree Commission. Shade Tree Commission, expressed concerns about, the trees themselves and whether they need to be removed, and requested that we seek the advice of a professional arborist, which we did. And maybe just for the sake of the public, I can share a letter, before kind of moving up, that I guess, important for everybody to understand. Kind of what the rationale here is, and probably everybody should be familiar with these trees and with these brick planters that are in this park lot, I heard. So, from the arborist, I received a note, saying it is common for trees growing in planter boxes to outgrow their surroundings over time. As trees increase in size, roots grow downward and outward, forced to a sidewall to expand and break apart. Containers restrict root development, resulting in girdling and entangling massive roots. Over time, tree health is affected by slow growth due to lack of air, water, and nutrients. Removing the container for a new one can be accomplished safely, but the new container must be double in size to prevent root damage. My understanding is that there will be no size change, and a 3-foot trench will need to be dug to support the sides of the plant. The root loss from this excavation will push these trees into decline, causing growth dieback, root rot, and eventual death. The best solution to this problem is to remove the trees and start over. Choose dwarf or slow growing trees that are naturally suited for containers and won't outgrow them as quickly. If you have any questions, please, regarding this plan, please contact me at your convenience. So that was what we submitted to the Shade Tree Commission, and based on that, they did make some suggestions, and we revisited those suggestions with Michael Burns, and I think just for the sake of kind of further clarity, rather than read all of his letter, I'll just read the last little bit. And I'm happy to share this. So he knows that we received the letter from the arborist. We presented the letter to the Shade Tree Commission on September 22nd, and the commission recommended that we redesign the proposal so that the northern tree could be removed and the southern tree would remain. This would require completely redesigning the parking area and relocating the entry to the parking in order to enlarge the brick planter as recommended by the arborist. Unfortunately, this would only allow the planter to be increased in two directions, and the required excavation would continue to damage the roots of the trees in two other directions. As such, this is not a workable solution. Additionally, the parking lot redesign and relocation of the entry drive would add significant cost to the project and may affect one of the existing street trees in the area, with a large oak just to the left of the drive entrance there to apron. We continue to recommend removal and replacement of the existing trees with the new trees more appropriate for the location. So that's kind of where we are. I do want to note that in the last few years, we've done, I think, remarkably well with planting trees in the city. We've planted probably more than 200 trees in the city. I planted more than 20 myself along the banks of the Swan Creek. I do acknowledge that it's an important part of our resilience planning and the work that we do. We've gotten a wonderful amount of private donations in the last couple of years. I think something like $10,000 to $12,000 for trees. We could get a grant for a tree inventory in 2023, which was about $70,000, and we have a fantastic tree inventory. So this is not a decision that I make lightly as somebody who loves trees and admires, their natural beauty. I just wrote about them this week in Landfill Matters. So I haven't spoken to the council about their views on this map, but, it's a decision that we have to make. One way or another. I think the problem of the trees in the existing phases is fairly clear. They're gonna continue to grow and compromise those beds and their own health. So, I don't know where I stand, and I don't know if the council wants to weigh in, or if we, want to move forward with, consideration of the resolution.
No, go ahead.
I just don't know if this is a concern. I think we need to take more time to see if there are other solutions out there. I think sometimes when you move too fast, you get forced to make a decision that you don't necessarily need to make right now, and I don't think this is one that we need to make, so, I don't support voting on this decision myself.
I agree. I mean, I'm not gonna over speak on this. I didn't find, the trees are healthy. I appreciate the tree service, but the tree service answered a question about the planters more than, the health of the tree, the viability of the tree. I think the trees need to be trimmed. We haven't really taken care of them, but, seems to be a lot of different input that, that we need to kind of have on it, because I'd like to have consensus with, folks from the Environmental Commission that have been concerned, from Parks and Rec, to be able to kind of get everybody together to talk about it. I'm not the arbiter of like good taste. I do like trees, but, there's questions on lighting and native species, and, it's not like it's an emergency to do this, and the trees are lovely. They do provide a lovely canopy there. They frame it very nicely. We need to trim them. We need to take care of them. We need to figure this out, but they're not a threat. They're not disease. I think, we need to be good environmental stewards and take a good hard look to this. Look, when it comes to beautifying the downtown, I just want to add that in my thought of having money for the downtown, I'd like to rather see a bigger, that lies, a part of it, but that we have an overall streetscape plan with planters. Maybe we need new garbage cans, maybe we need some new banners, maybe we need to take that map out. But I'd love to see it be a part of an overall plan instead of this little piecemeal thing as well. So I just have to put that pitch in again, that I'd rather have a bigger plan and fun pieces of it than do this little thing without knowing what the overall streetscape looks like. So I'd rather not move ahead and come up with some informal groupthink on it. That, we don't have to be people or do a commission, but, let's get Parks and Rec. Let's have a consensus and, get together on it. Trees are good.
I'm inclined to agree that we probably don't want to push this forward at this point. It's a shame to sacrifice two beautiful trees. I don't know. Okay, the planters need work. We got to figure out a way, like there has to be a way to do that. And I don't know what that is, but I think by getting the people who are concerned about the trees, sitting down, we've had people, like you said, from environmental, Parks and Recreation. And, I know Marianne Borch is a wealth of information regarding, she's a master gardener, and she has tremendous background on native plants and, stormwater management and using natural foliage to mitigate the environmental risks. I think there must be a compromise somewhere. Having said that, I want to thank Michael and all of the people that worked on this. You did a lot of work. I don't think I don't think it's wasted work. It's just, you know, it's kind of like you get to a point and you have a layer and they have to say, well, that's not probably anticipated, because when we talked about this, I think you said back in May, we had no idea that 2 trees had to come out. That wasn't, and now we've learned that. And so let's just take a breath. I mean, I'm not opposed to moving forward with this project. I'd just like to see if we can't come to some consensus, as the councilwoman said, regarding how we go about this, so that we don't, you know, throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. So,
These are all good suggestions that have come up tonight, about how to improve the appearance of the downtown, the city. I think that Councilwoman Kaminsky said about coming up with a plan for the downtown it's a great goal to have. It's not the first time we've talked about it. There's on that section of North Union Street, the curbs are falling in, there's asphalt curbs. The sidewalks are being done by the property owners, they have gotten notice about that, which is great. The idea, I love the idea of upgrading the park, not only to increase bench space, but appearance of it from the Union Street, and for all the people that walk the street and visitors to town. That lot is currently surrounded by 7 trees, including the one that is not in question now, that is in the lot. I think that covers the canopy. If the council wants to, I have no problem with waiting on it. I think the concept of the idea to improve the streetscape in the city was a good one. And I think Michael came up with a great concept of you know, how to repair. We've heard from the arborist already about will the trees be able to survive any work we do there? I certainly think that it's a safety issue now with those the bricks all crumbling and falling, you know, away from the tree. I see you shaking your head. I believe me, I've been here a long time. So I will say one thing is that when it came to agreeing to buy certain property that the city did for open space, I'll bring to I was on the council when we bought the McCann property, and I know there was controversy about how much we paid. We also bought the the property next door, the properties next door, to preserve the hill and the trees and the view shed. We agreed to buy one off that my house, but we agreed to buy the Clausen property, the Holcomb Farm, to protect that view shed. I think that in my time on council, I think I've been mindful of protecting the environment and all. I think that lot needs work. I think that it's a public hazard. The council wants to wait, I'm fine with waiting. I just don't want the project to disappear. But that's kind of where I'm at on maybe those trees don't have to be removed. Maybe they can be worked around. If people are, you know, if there's more input wanted by the council, that's fine with me. I just think it's an opportunity to improve another city property. basically. That's my universal take on it. You know, one other thing when people talk about, well, we're gonna lose parking spaces. If we can expand the scope and size of the planters. We, at one point, this council decided to put in charging stations for vehicles that have not been done, which would have taken parking spaces. I'd much rather save the tree than put 2 charging stations in that parking lot and taking up space that could be used for other uses. So we'll have to see how it rolls out. And if it comes down to not doing anything or doing something, I think we should do something. What we do in the size and scope is up to the council, but that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you. I support this resolution because I thought it was a good idea. We've now been working on the problem for a year and a half and more. I have concerns that just with kind of, I think if we want to look at this again, we're obviously going to do that. We're going to make a motion to table this resolution, and we'll move forward. I would, you know, I do want to emphasize that, you know, I think that between the arborist who's a professional and the city architect who's a professional, whose opinions we rely on, if these planters are problematic and they're only going to impact negatively the health of the trees at some point. And we're clearly not going to do this tonight, and that's fine. But I just want to go on record as saying that I think that, you know, this is a missed opportunity for us to take what is an unsightly situation and to beautify it, and to plant new trees there, which the Shade Tree Commission could recommend a species of, the Park and Rec could recommend a species of. We have the money, we're ready with the plan. I would support it, but it's not going to move forward. And my only other concern is that, you know, these things take time. And, you know, I think that it's likely that if we want to do something about the planters, that it's possible, and we talked about this earlier in the process, that, you know, it's possible we can get into doing some kind of work and find out the trees have to come down anyway, once we start pulling things apart, right? So it's possible that if we decide to move forward with some kind of new planters that are slightly enlarged or whatever, you know, we'll see what happens, basically. So, you know, I don't want to belabor the point, but on that, I guess on that, do we need to make a motion to table it, or do I just say we're done with it?
You don't have to.
Okay, I think so we're not gonna consider this resolution tonight.
So I think it's really important, and I don't know that there's that much distance between moving forward with finding a solution, right? Because, you know, we have people who are very interested in making recommendations. You mentioned, Parks and Rec, we talked about Mary Ann, and, you know, I'm sure with 1 or 2 people, I see, you know, people could make recommendations and work with Michael and others to try to figure out an approach that's amenable to everyone. And if people who are passionate about saving the trees can help find a solution, then we should welcome that. And then everybody wins, right? And we get our beautification project, we save 2 lovely trees. And if it turns out that any type of work is going to harm those trees, that's a different corner that you have to turn. But it's a conversation that I see this as a continuing conversation, not as a, well, we're just putting this on hold. I think that we should, you know, encourage people to work toward a solution that is amenable to both sides.
Well, we'll certainly do our best, we always do. So,
That's great. That's a great point, and it's a great point to make, and thank you for making it. Because, you know, collaboration on this when there's interest is a great thing, and that's what our community is about, so.
Yeah.
I'm all about doing that,
Yeah.
and that's why people came to.
Yeah, yeah.
I also have to say that we relied on Mary Ann Borge for a lot of things. She's given the city a lot of her time and her expertise, and, you know, I think we should.
I talked to Mary's, so.
Oh, you said you rely on the city professionals.
Right.
And your
It's
architects.
professional.
I think we also have to.
Anyway, so we'll try and find another solution, so let's just leave it at that. Thank you. So we're gonna move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda these are resolutions that are considered routine, are usually enacted by one motion. If anybody on the city council wants to see a separate discussion of any item, please let me know and we'll move it and discuss it separately. Everybody have a chance to go through the consent agenda, which is numbers 159, 2025 through 170, 2025. There any questions or anything? None. Okay. None are in for everything if you accept the consent agenda, which you have a record. Numbers 159 through 170. Any motion, please? So moved. In favor, please say aye. Thank you. That's the consent agenda, resolution number 171 2025. It's a resolution to approve submission of best practice inventory for the city of Landfill, scale 42. This is something that we do every year. Best practice inventory is completed. Thank you very much, Cindy, largely, almost actually totally, for getting this.
No, Christie helped.
Christie helps, okay, so our CFO helps with this, it's quite a bit of work, and our score determines if the state will withholding state aid. We received a score of 42 this year, based on our score, we received the full amount of our state aid. So, we ask for motion to adopt resolution number 171 2025. So this.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Resolution 172 2025, resolution of the city of Lambertville, county of Hunterdon, state of New Jersey, regarding the adoption of the amended redevelopment plan for the Lambertville High School redevelopment area. So this is just a resolution to memorialize the actions of the governing body and the planning board for the adoption of the Lambertville High School redevelopment area. As most of this language you've already seen, I've read some of this at the last meeting, and comments are incorporated as well. Council, any comment about this resolution? Okay. In that case, I'm going to make a motion to adopt the resolution in a second, please. Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, motion carried unanimously. Approval of the bill left. May I have a motion to pay the bills, please?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Ordinance on first reading. Ben?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Ordinance number 25-2025, an ordinance to amend Lambertville City Code 2014 for field section 3-25.4 Saturday and Sunday parking in chapter 8. This is an old ordinance on the books for parking in City Hall lot. Can you have anything else you want to say about this?
Yeah, I mean, it was before we actually started leasing spaces, and on Saturday we have police go down and do parking for $5. But we've now formalized it in another section of the ordinance, and I just found this when I was reading through. So we should repeal it.
Lieutenant Brown doesn't want to sit in the parking lot paying $5 from cars on a Saturday. So, all right, this is Chief Ward, done the ask for motion to introduce ordinance 2025, the public hearing scheduled to November 20th. All in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Next is ordinance 26-2025, and this one was again the Lambertville City Code 2014. To authorize the mayor to waive the requirements of chapter 14 streets and sidewalks, section 14-1-3, the fees, letter C. So this will give the mayor the ability to waive the moratorium on roads that have been recently constructed without the approval from the governing body. So as members of the public may know, we have a 5-year moratorium. So for example, we just paved Swan Street, and one of the things that we approved in the consent agenda was waiving the moratorium of 5 years so that a new property owner can install a new water line. So this, ordinance just seeks to give the mayor that authority. It's a pretty straightforward, in my view, administrative, almost house cleaning, not house cleaning, but it's an administrative benefit for moving things along efficiently, kind of discretion in there. So, are there any questions about that? We have a motion to introduce ordinance 2020, 2026-2025 with the public hearing on November 30th.
20. Done.
Second.
Second.
Oh, there.
Okay, we got 20.
Aye.
November 20th.
November 20th. Did I say 30th?
Yes.
I'm sorry, November 20th. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Okay, aye, motion carries. Ordinance number 27-2025. This ordinance will amend the Lambertville City zoning ordinance section C-400 C-3A general commercial affordable housing opportunity. So this is an ordinance that's required in zone ordinances that will allow for the potential development of the spokeswork site and the C3 commercial free zone. And this is requiring our fair share, how we plan on fair share. Questions about it?
This is only if they want to come on future access. There's nothing proposed now.
It just allows, development in the C3, or allows the apartments as an accessory in the C3. Currently it's not allowed, which, yeah, and it helps, us with our affordable housing.
Yeah, it does.
It's both C3s, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, north and south. Oh, that's good.
So I have a question to introduce ordinance number 27-2025, please, for the public hearing adoption scheduled for November 20th.
So moved.
Okay.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, motion carries. Now we're on to ordinance of second reading, first which is ordinance 23-2025. This ordinance will amend the Lambertville City Code 2013, chapter 8, municipal areas and meter parking. This will amend the ordinance and then the fees for the lease parking spaces at City Hall and the Justice Center will reduce the permit fee from $55 to $65 with the late fee of $10. It's up to the public hearing. Anybody in the public would like to speak to this? This is the time to do so. Okay, anyone online? And motion to close the public comment period on this one, please.
So good.
Second.
All in favor of closing public comment, please say aye. Aye. Once again, unanimous. And now let's hear any comments or questions from council. I would ask for a motion to approve ordinance number 22-2025 on second reading, granting final approval.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Ordinance number 24-2025. Ordinance to amend the Lambertville City Code 2014, chapter 3, fees charged by various city departments, boards, and commissions, 3 to 13, letter F, city clerk. When we talk about slab, this is just to increase a few of the clerk fees, in particular, a non-resident wedding fee for $200, and then, let's see, certified copies of birth, marriage, civil, domestic partner licenses, and after 25 for the first copy, and $5 for each additional copy. Open this up to public hearing. Anybody want to weigh in on this one?
I just want to note that we did provide this to both of the funeral homes in Lambertville, because it's a little bit of an increase, and neither one had an issue.
Thanks for that. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing on this. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now I would ask for a motion to adopt ordinance 24-2025 on second reading, granting final approval.
So good.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. There's a couple of things for just general discussion. So we talked a little bit, and next we're about closed session minutes. And, yeah. Cindy sent out a memorandum to the council about, the release of closed executive session minutes. In which she, just outlined the current procedure and, possible options for consideration. And I think this is important enough for me just to kind of go through this memo a little bit so the public understands kind of where we are and where we could possibly go and what the rationale is for any one of our decisions. So the current policy utilized for the release of closed session minutes is as follows. A request is received usually through Oprah, and this takes 7 business days to process. The minutes are reviewed by the clerk to ensure the topics discussed have been resolved. This section, we believe, should be redacted, highlighted for consideration of the city attorney. The minutes are sent to the city attorney for confirmation of the due date for the Oprah, if applicable, and the attorney responds to the municipal clerk with the final disposition, and then the response is provided to the requester in public. So this policy is consistent with our past practice, and it's followed by all prior clerks in the city of Lambertville. The city does not have an ordinance governing the release of closed session minutes. City reviewed several websites for municipalities in Humboldt County and was unable to find closed session minutes on their municipal websites. She also consulted with SDL, which is our software program, who hosts our website, and they confirm that municipalities using their service do not post closed session minutes on the websites. And she did note that while she was completing research for business administrators ordinance, she did find some policy on Franklin Township's website that established a process for releasing the previous year's executive session minutes. And that is done, kind of through the attorney. The process is done yearly. It's figured into the cost of doing business with the attorney, all of that. And so kind of that was really the only place where you found anything other than kind of what we currently do, correct?
Yes.
And so that she noted that the following is a recommendation based on input from recent council members, and this requires some discussion tonight. If you're interested in changing how we do our closed session minutes, how we release them, we would need to develop a process for the release of minutes in the form of an ordinance. How often should they be released? Should they be released annually, semi-annually, quarterly? And then how do you want to manage minutes with redactions? Do you release them with redactions, or you hold the minutes until they can be fully released? So can you just maybe talk a little bit about what the redactions are? So in any given closed session meeting, we may have 2 or 3 topics, and one of them may be something that we could release, right?
Correct.
And the other 2 may not be, because it's possibly still under consideration, litigation, and so forth.
That's correct. I mean, we can release when something has been finalized. And that when it's finalized, it's usually either done through a resolution or an ordinance. So what we would do is, what I would suggest is that we follow what Franklin Township does. We do an annual release, and in January, we add that to the agenda, the meeting agenda, and we start prepping, in November for, the city attorney to review and authorize for release. That way, anything that needed to still be redacted would be redacted and held. Doesn't mean that the public still couldn't request a closed session in the interim. It just means that annually we would do a blanket release of the prior year. And then in the interim, if somebody wants something, we could give them whatever had been resolved. But anything that was ongoing would still need to be redacted. Or redaction really means that it's blacked out. You're not going to be able to read it. But anything that had been resolved, we would provide.
And is it fair to say that, let's talk about doing this annually, it's probably more efficient than, it's certainly more efficient than sort of doing it month by month, because every month you're gonna have redactions, and you could be a year into some conversation, and have it still be part of that. So it's more labor intensive to do it on an ongoing basis because of the overlap and what needs to be redacted, right?
That's correct. I mean, if we do it annually, it means that we only have one time that have to go through, other than unless we get, an open request. But if we're doing it quarterly, it means every quarter, we have to go back through three or 4 months of the minutes, and maybe even prior to see if something's been resolved or not and kind of release.
So a couple comments. First, I think you know, so members of the public know, our ability to meet in closed session, we don't have to meet in closed session all the time. And so I think, one, we've been doing a pretty good job about that when we meet when we really need to, but I think that's something to understand that if we meet in closed session less, we have less of these issues to worry about. And so there are some reasons why we absolutely have to meet in closed session. But there are some where, it's our decision as council. So I think we just all need to remember that. Two, I think it's important for a housekeeping perspective to remember that it's unfair for the city clerk to have to think about, like, when are we gonna redact this, when are we not? I think when we're meeting in the closed session, the city attorney and the council should make a note as to when these minutes are gonna be available. For example, tonight, was the redevelopment plan, and when that's been passed and approved, there's no reason for those minutes to be closed anymore. And so, that way, if someone wants to open them, the city clerk can look at the notes when we have the session and say, okay, this is approved now, we can these out. And so I think that makes her job a little bit easier because the city attorney has to weigh in with the council as to when the minutes are gonna be released. So, I think one, the more we do out in public is always best. That means less of these issues for redaction. I think it's very timely to go through once a year and have to do that. That's part of the process. And certainly don't think we want to do that every month. I think that's too much time for the city employees and we need them doing other things. And so I don't have a problem with the 1 year. But I think we can do a good job ourselves when we're meeting in closed session as to letting the clerk know when it's going to be available.
Quick question, are you suggesting that? It may have just been the way you said it. Is that when we go in a closed session, other than what Cindy reads, we should say what we're discussing in closed session?
I think we should let the city clerk know when these minutes are going to be available, and it might be something where we don't know. Because there might be a threat of a lawsuit that hasn't happened.
So that wasn't my question.
Yeah, no, so when we go into closed session, she's gonna read the reason why, and then I think we say, okay, these are the three things we're discussing. Issue one, in 45 days, this issue is gonna be we can disclose these things.
So,
Issue two, we might not know, and we might have to wait, and that will wait until
so was it the way you said it, that we went into closed session to talk about the redevelopment agreement? Are you saying that rather than read the state statute that allows us to discuss contracts and all, that we should list what we're talking about before we go, so the public knows why we're going over?
to the extent I think we can. Right?
No, I don't do that.
We haven't done it at all. I think this is the first time I've ever talked about the closed session agenda, legal matters or the meeting. And to the extent that I think that we can, like things like the redevelopment, if everybody knows that we're working on it, we have to work on. I think it's fine to say that that's one of the things, but there may be other things other topics that are not appropriate to sort of identify in the moment.
Correct, because there could be threat of litigation.
Right.
There could be issues that we simply, that's why we have a closed session, but, some of the stuff, again, I think it's always important to be as transparent as possible. And so, I think the closed session minutes, we want to get them out as soon as we can, but I think the reality is it costs money and there's time for us to do that, so we gotta balance all that out, and I don't think we can expect the city staff to go through every month and do that. I think that's an unreasonable expectation. I think 1 year to me sounds reasonable. I don't have an issue with that. But I think there are going to be some issues where people don't want to wait a whole year to get those closed sessions. And, this process, I think, will expedite the release of those closed session minutes when we do that.
So may I ask Bill a question? So if we have a closed session, Bill, is there anything from the council point of view and the closed session, the five of us saying, as we go into public session, we can announce that we talked about this, that, or make a decision about what we, share what we talk about, and there are obviously going to be moments when we probably won't do that. But so tonight, for example, we have two topics on the closed session agenda, which said that we talked about the council could potentially say, well, we're not going to announce, it's a contract, we're not going to talk about that at the moment, right? So in terms of transparency, is there an issue with us deciding as a body based on your advice that when we come out of close, we can say, this evening we talked about the redevelopment. No issue with that?
Yeah, it's something to be considered on a case by case basis, but yeah, I mean, to the extent we discussed it tonight.
I'm very comfortable with that. The council is comfortable seeking, at the end of each closed session, taking a minute to say to the attorney, is there something that we shouldn't be, at least.
But yeah, and it's usually like contracts or personnel issues or something that, you wouldn't talk about in public, if you're increasing somebody, so. But otherwise, I think the topics are pretty much,
Well, I think
mentionable. Mentionable.
legally, as far as talking about personnel, we can't even do, we can't.
Right,
That's
no,
not
you
public
can't, no,
input.
but just so people know, yeah, but that's like off limits.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay, so is everyone comfortable with the idea of releasing the minutes annually in January? Yes?
Sure.
Unless there's a request before.
Yes.
Right.
That's how we did it.
Right, the matter has to be.
The only issue I would say, and I don't know from their perspective, is that a bad time of year for you guys to do that? Will there be any, because we have that ability to say, well, we'll pick the time that we're gonna do that, so.
If it would be best if we waited to adopt that resolution in February, because then he's got the full year to review in January. And then release, but this gives me something to get started with writing the ordinance that we'll introduce at our next meeting. I will try to have a draft ready for discussion at the November 6th meeting, so we can be introduced at the November 20th and adopt by the end of the year.
Great.
Thank you.
Well done, everybody. Once again. There's a brief discussion on tonight because, I can't talk more than just a few things about it is on the Holcomb House. So we talked about this as a conversation we're going to move forward. I did meet with, Paul Harvicker, the construction code official, at the Holcomb House, and sent to the council a brief memo about potential uses of the house, just noting that, the path of least resistance, according to Paul, for utilizing the Holcomb House would be keeping it as a single family home. Or changing the property to a museum would be the second easiest option. Anything beyond that, you'd have to get the UCC involved, and would likely require more extensive work, changes to the building to comply. So I haven't gotten up there yet with the fire official, and I do think that the council, I do think we should be considering how to use the property and whether we have some people here in town, whether it's people from the Historic Preservation Commission or local volunteers, kind of spearhead the effort, or whether we want to consider hiring a consultant. You sent the Heritage Consulting as a group that does specifically this kind of consulting work. So I want to continue to move this conversation along, and I don't know if we're going to have, if there's anything more to say tonight. Unless you have specific ideas about moving forward and how you want to have this conversation.
Yeah, it might be good to have a consultant, because I think that, we're always, it's great, we have a lot of input from folks, but you kind of need a person who has good resources and and does this, for a living, that can bring that expertise to the table that, we don't have, to try, especially if we tell them, kind of our parameters of what we're thinking of. And what our kind of budgetary constraints may be, or concerns, or they may suggest, ways to fund it.
I think we also have, that I agree with hiring a consultant for this. The overarching question, and maybe the consultant can, or the state can help us out with this, with SHPO, is what can we do and what can't we do to the facade? Is the facade of the building protected? Is the addition that was put on the building like 60, 70 years ago? Is that protected? What do we have? What are we protecting? Are we protecting the inside? Well, if anyone's been in the inside, it's not original anymore. Except for the fire piece downstairs. It's about what do we see that building in the future going to be? A museum is an idea. You know, you just gotta see what, you know, what's economically feasible to do and what's not economically feasible to do. Because first thing that comes to mind, if it's a public building, you gotta get access up to that front door or back door, which means have to be accessible to all. There's the bathrooms inside, they're not original, but the bathrooms inside, well, the outhouse is. But you know, there's gotta be accessibility to, you know, or maybe there's, you know, a checklist you can go down where you don't have. I don't even think there's a bathroom on the first, or there is on the first.
But above your head every time you're standing at the.
Yeah, but, you know, if you have to make it accessible, then it's not good. So there's a lot of things you have to consider.
You won't fit, Stephen, the bathroom.
That's right, yeah, it's cool enough, I put my head in there, so you're up, you're up on the second floor at the outhouse. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna reach out to a couple of consulting companies and begin that conversation before we get to look at professional evaluation of the property.
Yeah, and basically this person who I sent you,
Donna,
that actually came through Mike mentioned the Historical Society. Is, you know, has done research about existing, or now it's past, but, you know, past buildings in municipalities or towns where they decided to go one path and then didn't have the funding to finish it, and that's a big concern as well. So we gotta make sure that whatever's done is funding. Funded.
Got it.
So,
And there's money in the bond for that, for the MP.
There is. After the resolution. There's
Yeah,
something
yeah.
in Screwchula.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
could probably do it.
Okay,
So this is assuming we would retain ownership of the house?
we're gonna have that conversation tonight. Yeah, this is assuming that we would retain ownership of the house, yeah.
Because I think we have to look at the whole, you know, owning a house that's really old.
I think that's why we should get a consultant who's going through this before.
I agree with the consultant.
Okay, good, so let's start with the consultants.
and that was,
I like that.
that, perfect, 'cause that was my question about what has to be preserved about the.
Sure, yeah, it's all everything, or they will.
Right.
Exactly.
That's, yeah, we're stuck with it.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna move on. Once again, I've lost my agenda.
Um,
Correspondence here, Councilman, discretionary property tax grace period for eligible federal employees and federal contractors for certain circumstances. So if you're a federal employee and you've been furloughed, and can't pay your taxes, come see us. New Jersey Transit, you know, public hearing, I don't know anything more about that.
Just another one of their public hearings, about their circulation and prices. Mayor, regarding the discretionary property tax grace period.
Yes.
I think we need to have some type of a motion to, authorize that. If, you know, yeah,
Okay,
are you prepared to do that? Or should we move that to the November 6th agenda?
let's send that versus, I don't know,
Right.
we prepared anything, right?
We have not, I've asked other municipalities, I don't have anything yet, although we got this notice that if, you know, including federal employees who aren't receiving anything right now, and this grace period would extend it beyond November 10th to allow them to, you know, pay their taxes and.
Well, I forget about our grace period. It's November 1st, and it's
November 10th is
it's our grace period,
yes,
so we can do this on the 6th.
yeah,
On the 6th,
okay.
so we'll do that then. And JOD letter in response to the city's request for a study to see if a rapid rectangular flashing beacons at various locations in the city is feasible.
That's, if I may add, I talked to DOT in the beginning of the week and on the pedestrian, you know, that's the resolution that was submitted to them to kickstart the pedestrian safety plan. And DOT is gonna be using a consultant as a designer, so they're waiting for the proposals to be submitted to them, and then they're going to be selected, a consultant to help them, and they'll be coming up, they'll take a look at traffic patterns, and then they're gonna suggest a design, and then we get into the back discussion stage.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Announcements, Halloween parade, will be held next Sunday, October 26th, at 2:30, starting here at Sheridan Park. And we'll proceed to Gilly Field, the North Union Street, and is it Delaware or Perry Street? Always a good time. Trick or treating is on October 31st from 6 to 8. The new closures will be at 5 o'clock on North Union Street in Corio, 5 in the morning. I just want to talk for just 1 minute about Cavallo Park. So I put some information in them from out about Cavallo Park. This continues to be really just a project that will not end. The LSRP is unfortunately going to have to come back with another proposal because of additional testing required for these eco samples, which are outside of the park. And you know, I've met with the DEP, I've met with Green Acres, I've met with DEP and Green Acres together with our LSRPs, working really hard to get this moved, you know, get this closed out, get the paperwork submitted by the end of the year. And the park reopened as soon as possible. We did a technical kind of assessment with the DEP, and the LSRPs provided a lot of very technical information in this meeting, and we got some good feedback from the DEP in advance to the final submission. So we've kind of front loaded the process a little bit here. Working really hard, as you can see, most of the soil's been removed now. And they'll be bringing in the clean fill. We have been down there. I've had people down there every single day watching every single activity. We're not going to do anything that is going to get us into any kind of delay. So I just need everybody to show some continued patience with this project. It's been a tough one. Really, I think in my almost 4 years of my mayorship, it's been the project that's been the hardest one to deal with. It's very complex, and it just doesn't seem to be stopping. But anyway,
A question?
yeah.
The testing outside the park, did it say where they wanted to?
Yeah, well, so the testing's already been started and so it's called eco sampling. So the work that's in the park itself will be complete in the next week or two. And if we could submit all of the paperwork for that, we'd be good. But because the DEP requires sampling outside of the park to see if the contaminants have spread to other areas, we have to do this additional testing. And it's a completely separate set of testing. And I'm not gonna be able to explain it very well, but it requires different, you know, different testing methods, different analysis, much more in depth, and it's complicated.
Are they gonna be testing the state park?
No, so yes, the testing is along, if anybody's interested in the plans that I'm happy to send them to. The eco testing is on the banks of the canal and on the banks of the back race. And, you know, with LSRP is finding it's consistent with just natural contamination related to flooding events and rain events, right? It doesn't seem to be really kind of matching or dovetailing with the kind of contaminants that we're seeing in the park, but it's still a requirement in order to close out.
They should be as diligent in the park as we want them to be on the hill.
Okay.
Yes,
So have we made any claim against the insurance company for the people?
not yet. Not yet. It's on my list. I want to get this closed out, and
Oh, yeah, no,
I'm
not.
very eager to.
Well, I think what we need to do, we need to ask for loss of use damages for this. I mean, this is a city park. Kids have not been able to use this. This is a significant period of time. So it's not just the damages or the cost that it's taken for us to fix it. It's our inability to use this very valuable city park. So I really strongly consider we pursue use of loss of use damages.
Thank you.
As the plaintiff's attorney on the dais here, that is a necessary thing, and I'm happy to assist with that.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm happy to get it underway. Believe me, I feel like somebody should pay for this. And it shouldn't be us.
I'll ask the canal commission.
All right. So that's all I have for announcements. We'll move to the second public participation period. Same rules apply. Name, address, 3 minutes of time for comments and questions. Lindsay, keeping an eye on the time, of course.
Jeff Fiddle, 33 Wilson Street. If you do sue, my grandkids will plaintiffs because and it costs the town money because they ended up staying in New Paltz. They came up from Florida, and my other grandkids are even more upset. So
I've got a 10-year-old home that,
yeah, so you got to understand, I'm one block from there. I just want to pull up something on the Open Public Meetings Act, because I've been involved with this issue for a lot of years. And in many of the towns that I've dealt with, or even lived in, closed minutes tend to be released after an issue is done, especially like litigation or something that's important. And that's usually the policy. I mean, Hillside was like that, Ringwood was like that. I mean, back in my days at Hillside, we didn't have the internet to post stuff, but but that was would be in a library or whatever. And then the other thing from my work with Foundation for Open Government and others on the again on the Open Public Meetings Act, the standard practice for most communities, and I mean, we've been slipping and sliding. I mean, I was one time down in South Jersey, and suddenly people from town could testify at a planning board meeting, which is ridiculous. But the policy that usually is in place is that you don't go into detail, but you say, discuss, the redevelopment plan or, potential litigation over a park or whatever. Not much detail, but that's usually how they do it. And, also Lambertville's a little bit different. A lot of towns do it after. So there's usually an agenda and they go into close and come back out. So you do it before, but in most of the towns that I've been involved with, it's usually on the agenda and then they have the public and then they go into close and they come back out again, which is an important issue. You end up waiting around a long time. That's how most of the towns do it. And I can give you the citations.
Judy Gleason, 86 North Union Street. A little bit further to the closed meeting issue, I want to thank Councilman Lott for bringing that up, but also Jeff's made a point that I would have made. I had to deal with this when I was in state government, and you usually have to say more than just potential litigation and stuff. And I looked it up on the open records decision thing, and they do usually want a little bit more information than that. It's not exhaustive because we understand the concept of closed, but it gives a better indication of what roughly is going on. But the second thing is about the redevelopment plan. And as I mentioned earlier, and you all passed it without a word, so I just want to remind you that there's several places in what the planning board said, and what was included in the what you passed today. When you have said, and I'm saying that's good, I'm just asking you to not forget it, have said that there are places where the planning board will have an opportunity to make recommendations and set requirements. I don't know whether you have to accept the planning board. You don't have to accept it when they say inconsistent with the plan, the national, whatever we call our plan. Do you have to accept what they come up with, what the planning board says, when they look over what the developer is doing? Because a lot of what we've said here in terms of, that's okay, the planning board, oh, that's okay. I just want to be sure that we're actually looking at what we're saying here, the planning board will be able to do it. And one of the areas in specific is, for example, having to do with the traffic study and what that's going to actually be, because it doesn't actually say what it's going to be or what it's going to do or what it's going to try to do or what it's going to mean or anything. And when we say, hey, not to worry, planning board will look at it. If you don't accept what they say, I think you have to do more than just say, not to worry, planning board will look at it, because there needs to be more input with all the input that you all are getting. Similarly, my favorite, communicate with West Amwell. We really need to consider how we're going to handle that as a good neighbor, as a town, as a whatever, because all it says is, in terms of, one of the things is encourage cooperative agreements with the county and adjoining municipalities for provision of needed service in the regional area. And one of the things having to do with this development, we say that, oh yeah, we'll continue to explore opportunities for the provision of necessary services if and when certain needs arise. I'm not going to say you don't know what that means, but I don't know what that means. And if we're really going to be good neighbors, and if we're really going to hold these people's feet to the fire a little bit, Kay and Indian, we have to carry through some of what you've said in response to what the planning board talked about. Similarly, welcome any communication with. I really don't think it's that hard to reach out to them and communicate to them. It seems like it's part of what we're trying to say we're gonna do, that we care about. And finally, talking about access, for all people to facilities, structures, etc. Talks about some of the areas, in connection with the redevelopment plan, and says the city may also explore further opportunities through the redevelopment agreement. I looked at all the places where it says redevelopment agreement. Please go back and look what you said about what the planning board said, or what whoever put that together about the redevelopment agreement. And the planning board will be required to provide further review during a site plan application process. Do you have to listen to them? You don't have to answer me now, but I'm saying, otherwise, we're getting out of this by saying planning board, and then when the planning board says, you can say, oh, we don't have to listen to the planning board. So, I mean, we'll feel better out here the same way we will on closed meetings if you tell us, as soon as you can tell us, or if you follow through with the things that you seem to be prepared to follow through on. It's not that you're not going to, I just know how easy it is to get lost in details. I mean, no one can keep track of everything. So I'm just asking you to look back over what you had in your resolution and make little circles for when you talk about the agreement, because you put a lot of comfort on the fact that we have an agreement, we have a planning board, and we're going to deal with the things that the people on the Hill have brought to your attention. And so I think you want to do it, and I think you should do it. Thank you.
Bill, I'm just gonna ask you to clarify, so. When the redevelopment agreement has been negotiated and signed by both parties, and the developer goes to the planning board for site plan review. Does this come back to the city council at any point? No, right? So once the agreement's signed and we've done it becomes a planning board, and we don't get to weigh in again, right? So
Okay, great.
I wanted to make sure that you understood that, because it's an important part of the process. Our jurisdiction only goes to the sign redevelopment plan, or the redevelopment plan, the adoption of, and then the redevelopment agreement, and then whatever other arrangements are made with respect to finance, whatever. And then it goes to the planning board for their review, and we're out of it, correct?
Yeah, it's all a statutory process, and the way the redevelopment plan worked was right in accordance with the redevelopment law. The site plan application is going to be in accordance with the land use law and all of the procedural requirements and jurisdictional requirements that are there. And I think, I'm comfortable saying that there's going to be a requirement in the redevelopment agreement for the traffic study. It's not going to be a discretionary issue. It's part of something that the city insisting on. So,
Can't hear you, can't hear you.
it's going to be in there.
There's going to be a traffic study in the redevelopment plan, in the redevelopment agreement. We've talked about a few of these things general, and I know, for example, Beth you've been kind of paying close attention to some of this. I mean, over the course of several months, I've said that there are things that I'm going to insist on in the redevelopment plan. Now that we're talking about the redevelopment plan in closed session, I'm probably not going to highlight those in a public way, right? But so I want to assure, again, take just a minute to assure everybody that everything that everybody said, I think we've talked about, right? I'll go back and look at the planning board letter and make sure that whatever can be worked into the redevelopment agreement is. So, and at this point, having all of these important comments come our way, I can't speak for anybody else, obviously, but I'm eager to share what we have with the public at this point, but we can't until further down the line. So all I can do is reiterate that we've listened to everything everybody has said, and that we have the best interests of the city in mind when we have conversations. And everything I think that anybody said tonight has been discussed already at the council level with respect to the redevelopment agreement. So I know it's tough to wait to be out there and not understand, or not to say these things again and again, make sure that we feel like we're listening and that we're incorporating what we can, what you've said, but we are. And I think I feel very confident in saying that when we have a public hearing, and show the public the redevelopment agreement we put forward, that you're gonna see everything you've commented on, Jeff and Judy and Beth and anybody else you made, and Dave, that all of those things happen one way or another, worked into the redevelopment agreement. Is there anyone else who wishes to make a statement? Is there anyone online? Okay. Is there a motion to close the public comment period, please?
So move.
Second. All in favor, please say again. Aye. And I will, ask for a motion to adjourn. So,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Thank you for coming, everyone. It's good to see you all.